Today, we're going to be taking a look at Nick the Knife Fuentes, talking about how he wants to continue his infiltration of the Republican Party and what he wants to demand of the right wing in 2026, coming up on the midterms, in which Republicans are likely to get shellacked, partially because they're playing footsie with the dissident right. So I'm curious what his political analysis is going to be as far as what he actually wants to achieve in reference to the right wing. There's also another video that we might check out, which is going to be him saying why he can't get married, which is probably going to be mad funny. It is New Year's, so we're kind of just chilling and having a good time. Let's get into it.
Is everybody most views, biggest viewership, most viral, biggest clips, biggest collaborations, debates, everything. It was monumental. And now it's coming to a close. Generational run coming to a close. I think we'll leave that behind in 2025. 2026 is a whole new game. But of course, what goes with that in 2025 is everybody is asking, why? How? People are saying, why now? Why was the show so successful? Why are the clips so viral? Why is everybody loving it? And this is something that I've talked about a lot in the past few months. I've been asked about it a lot, and there's been much debate about it in the mainstream media, in the conservative movement. Everybody wants to know, and everybody's wondering, why is the Groyper movement and America First so popular? Why is it so ascendant? Because for a lot of people, it feels like it came out of nowhere. It feels like all of this happened suddenly, overnight. Everybody was busy doing one thing, and then all of a sudden, the Groypers were banging on the door.
I'm sure he's about to describe this, but just in case like somebody's watching this VOD and they're trying to figure out whether or not they're going to stay in order to watch the whole thing, I'm sure what Nick is going to say is that this is not new. He's been grinding this for a decade. He's been talking about, it's probably the late 10s, right? Was whenever he had his debate at Boston University. I'll try to summarize it really briefly as if somebody's brand new. Nick Fuentes he was actually a never Trump guy, believe it or not. He was more conservative than Trump, but he didn't like Trump. And what ended up happening was he was thinking that the liberal media establishment, progressive social media terms of service, all that kind of stuff, it shuts down and mutes genuine conservative thought. And the conservatives are cuckolds where they care about the attention and approval of the media sphere and social media so much that they will twist and bend their message in order to be appealing to the general liberal progressive zeitgeist. And so what he saw in Donald Trump, which was an argument for utility, not for actual coherent policy, is that Donald Trump knew how to play the media. He knew how to twist them around his little finger and make them talk about whatever Donald Trump wanted to talk about. And so Nick, at least in the beginning, didn't believe that Donald Trump was actually like a strong conservative or a good guy or anything like that. He just saw him as a cudgel with which to beat the media establishment. And so he became a Trump guy through that lens. And then he started walking around in Boston University because he got into a Massachusetts college that is pretty prestigious. And he was wearing a MAGA hat, and people would hit his MAGA hat off. They would call him a nerd. They would call him a Nazi. They would call him a piece of garbage. They would do this. They would do that. And that kind of like rhetorical hostility, I don't know if it was justified at the time, but, I would say since then it's probably been justified. But that kind of like started his villain arc. And so what happened was he was known as the Trump guy on Boston University's campus, and he challenged everybody on campus to a debate. He said, oh, okay, you hate me so much for being who I am. Let's do a debate. He ends up debating the liberal class president of Boston University for whatever his year was. And as a result, yes.
Can we possibly use your phone?
Yeah, you can use my phone.
He's using mine right now, and I just need it for a minute.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Anyways, so sorry, the kid needed to be distracted with my telephone while my wife does something around the house. So Nick, anyways, he debates this Boston University liberal class president nerd, and according to conservatives, he demolishes him, just like totally annihilates him. Maybe at some point we should check that out as content. But he gets a media job with what is collectively known as Conservative Inc. Then he starts asking about Jews and Israel and, World War II and Holocaust history and this, that, the other. And he gets too spicy too fast. And because he can feel that he's picking on a raw nerve in the conservative movement, where Zionist conservatives cannot tolerate, especially at the time, they wouldn't tolerate any criticism of the state of Israel or any criticism of Jewish people. He's like, that's the nerve that I'm going to focus in on. And so he became a Christian nationalist. He became an authoritarian. He started doing Hitler apologia. He started doing Holocaust apologia. He started criticizing the state of Israel. He started criticizing American empire. He started criticizing neoconservatism. And as a result, he got debanked and deplatformed. And he also debanked, deplatformed, participated in January 6th, was monitored by the feds for a while. He created his own little internet, cozy.tv. He created his own platform that allowed him to have his own platform that he could not be pushed off of, and also his own way to monetize that he could not be debanked from. And then he just started doing psychological operations. And those psyops where the Groypers would show up to conservative incorporated events and Trump events and then harass the creators who were on stage in order to get clippable moments, it built a schizophrenic, tens of thousands of people strong, Christian nationalist, I would argue anti-Semitic, they would argue anti-Zionist movement. And now he's a millionaire. He's a millionaire as a result of that advocacy. He found a weird, underserved niche, and now the right wing is taking him seriously because he has the ears of hundreds of thousands of young men. Half of them are probably hate watchers, including yours truly, but it's undeniable that he's had a cultural impact. Anyways, I think that's enough of an introduction. So my prediction for what Nick is going to say is he's going to say this was 10 years in the making. There was times it wasn't going to happen. We almost got destroyed a million times, and it's only through dogged persistence that we achieved the year of 2025.
And it seemed like this was this overnight success. And so people have speculated. They say, well, it has to do with the material conditions in the country. They say it's because the younger generation is frustrated and angry and anxious and depressed because of the economic conditions. They say it is because of politics, because the left wing has bullied young people, specifically the males and the white males. And so this is their frustrated reaction to being attacked for so long. They've become spiteful, resentful, angry. And this is an expression of, this is their reaction against those things. And I've tried to say it as plainly as possible throughout the year. You can point to a few very specific things. What created the phenomenon this year of this show, America First, the Groypers? You can actually pinpoint a few specific things. And it's not complicated. I don't even think it's contentious. I don't think it's debatable. I think it's very clear and very obvious what happened. And starting with number one, the number one thing which accounted for all this success this year. Why did the show blow up so much this year? The number one thing, which nobody will even mention, and nobody has mentioned, is that this is the first year that they simply stopped censoring me. That's it. It's that simple. Because for those that don't know me or don't know a lot about me, you might have heard, for many years, I was the most censored, canceled person in the country. And I don't say that to make myself a victim. I don't say that to be a martyr. It is just a fact that for years, I was completely censored, completely blacklisted, blackballed, and everything that entails. And that went into overdrive in 2021 after January 6th. In 2021, I was banned on everything. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, DLive, Twitter, TikTok. I was banned on every major social platform, but I was doubly banned because I was also banned from appearing on anybody else's show. So if I went on Sneako's show, or if I went on Fresh and Fit, or if I went on any other show, YouTube would delete that show also. If I went on someone else's TikTok, or if I was on someone else's Instagram account, they were also banned. And it was like this for 4 years.
I would have to hear when that stopped, because obviously, like, I saw his Fresh and Fit performances in the past. I've seen the Sneako performances in the past. Sneako himself got banned off of YouTube. He had to move to Rumble, and then I think he was he not also on Kick? Doesn't he like stream on Kick, and he also is on Rumble? So I'm kind of curious how this works, but I don't know if that narrative is fully true. And he did not take the tack that I thought he would take, but I still think my narrativization about persistence is the fact that he persisted through debanking, deplatforming, and also like the terms of service stuff, where not only can if you're banned off of a platform, you also cannot show up on somebody else's stream. I thought that was a Twitch terms of service thing. I didn't think that was a YouTube terms of service thing, but it is what it is. Still, persistence is the reason why Nick is still around. He easily could have quit at any point. Politics JK for $5 says, that's enough crazy race stuff that we're going to do. Let's watch Nick Fuentes. True. I think Christian Valera said the same thing. Doobie says, I love Nick, to be honest. Why, Doobie? Why? Are you just saying things to perplex me? I swear to God, that's what you do. Anyways, let's get back into it.
So go figure. Why did I not gain a lot of traction in 21, 22, 23, 24? Because I literally didn't have a platform. I was banned from everything. The only platform that I could even live stream my show on was the platform that I made myself, because that was the only streaming platform I was allowed on. It was called Cozy TV. I had been banned from YouTube, DLive, Trovo, things you had never even heard of. And what happened this—
Sorry, this is important. Old School says, that's a lot of Christmas decorations for a straight guy. Bruh, can I say that either his mom did this, he hired an interior designer to do this, or Nick is actually gay and an excellent interior designer? Look at this. We got 3 meticulously decorated trees. We have a minion with a MAGA hat on it. We got a teddy bear. We have perfectly decorated Christmas presents. We have 2 more mini Christmas trees in the background. We have this vertical slat wood background that I've seen on almost every major streamer, YouTuber, podcaster. I've seen these vertical brown slats on everybody's shit recently. We got a Chicago background. We got these vines hanging here with these lights, and we have a stop. Yeah, dude, either a gay person or a woman decorated this set. And if Nick decorated this set, something's going on.
This year is there were a few specific decisions that were made. Number one, I was unbanned on Twitter last May. So this is the first full year that I have been allowed on Twitter since 2021. That's one. 2, I was allowed on Rumble. And all of a sudden, I got a check mark on Rumble. I was allowed to stream on Rumble. I just in the past couple of months was allowed to get super chats on Rumble. I was allowed to stream on a major platform. 3, and this is maybe the biggest one, Instagram stopped deleting my clips. And this is something that we noticed. This is like a switch was flipped, I think in like January. All of a sudden, you were able to post my clips on Instagram without being banned. And they were able to get millions of views, hundreds of thousands of views. That was never the case. It used to be the case that if you posted any clip from my show, your whole channel would get deleted. All of a sudden, starting this year, you're able to post the clip without it getting taken down. And then the last thing that happened.
Guys, can I ask, we have some pretty funny moments, right? I think we have some pretty funny moments, and these are the funny moments that I get from when I watch Chud Logic, right? Or if I watch Queeman. typically what happens in their intros, and I talked to my editor about this. Typically what happens is they take those really funny clips of like them spurging out or yelling or screaming or calling somebody like a really funny but weird esoteric slur, and they clip that up and they put that at the beginning of their content. And that typically sucks me in because I know that not only do I like this creator, but there's going to be a funny moment halfway through that's probably going to make me laugh. And as a result, I stick around. And so I think we have those clippable moments, like with just the one that I can think of most recently is kind of bumping into Pisco saying that he did aftercare with Hutch. And then we started riffing on him being a BDSM, a sadomasochistic debater. And we just started like making jokes about like making plushies of the Pisco BDSM debater stuff and making merch of them and all that kind of stuff. All that shit was funny. Like I was laughing so hard that I think I had like tears at the corners of my eyes. And so my question is, can we make a clips channel in the Discord? And I don't expect you guys to like record it. I don't expect you guys to necessarily clip it. But at the same time, like maybe we could do that in reference to stream where it's like, 90 minutes into this stream, here's the link. Here's a crazy pop-off moment that I thought was funny. And then I can go back in there, or Danabo can go back in there. We can pull out the clippable moments. We can put it on Instagram. We can put it on TikTok. And then as a result, we can use short form in order to grow. I think that's a good idea. I think I'm getting inspired right now.
Happened kind of like the last shoe to drop was around May of this year. I was able to start appearing as a guest on YouTube. This is something else where even in 2024, Candace Owens wouldn't bring me on her show because she was worried that if I was even a guest, that the whole YouTube channel would get deleted. And in May, for the first time, I think I did the Hodge twins, and then I did the Social Hour with Sean. All of a sudden, again, I was on a YouTube show and the YouTube channel was not banned. The video was not taken down. I don't know if it was even demonetized, but I did those two shows. They weren't taken down. And that reflected a decision that was made at YouTube that they were no longer going to censor me from being on shows. And so I think that changes the perspective on where I came from this year and what all happened, because a lot of people said, oh, it's things that are happening this year. It's because everybody got really hateful. It's because of this, that, or the other. No, it is because for 10 years, we did not have a level playing field at all. And think about this. Think about it. For 10 years, it was a completely gate-kept, closed system. And by that, I mean the conservative politics, the conservative political media ecosystem. It was an oligopoly. It was a closed system. There were a handful of personalities and companies that were chosen. They were selected, and they were immune from censorship and shadow banning and all of it. And it was people like Charlie Kirk at Turning Point. It was Ben Shapiro at Daily Wire. It was Prager University. It's all these familiar people.
Now, the insinuation that I'm sure that he'll get to is that these are all Zionist conservatives or tepid Zionists. So Prager, Dennis Prager is Jewish. Ben Shapiro, of course, is Jewish. TPUSA, Charlie Kirk, up until very recently, was a very ardent Zionist conservative. And also he was friends with Dennis Prager and Ben Shapiro. And so they were all Ziocons. And Steven Crowder, weirdly enough, I was actually thinking that when Steven Crowder was a part of Conservative Inc., in my opinion. Tim Pool is also a part of Conservative Inc., in my opinion. But when it comes to Tim Pool and it comes to Steven Crowder, I'm pretty sure like Tim Pool has not been demonetized, but he's been screwed with for community guideline strikes a few times. And I'm also pretty sure that Steven Crowder got demonetized on YouTube and as a result moved over to Rumble and did get screwed with that way. But Steven Crowder has recently criticized the state of Israel and kind of like, at least signaled that he's not totally a Conservative Inc. Zionist conservative. And the reason why I think that this is bad, that the gatekeeping breaking, is because the Zionist conservatives might have totally shilled for Israel and brooked no criticism of the state and brooked no criticism of Israel's actions since October 7, 2023. They might have done that, but they also kind of still tepidly played the game of identity in a positive way, where they were like, yeah, we don't care if you're Jewish. We don't care if you're black. We don't care if you're Hispanic. We don't care if you're Indian. We don't care if you're Asian. We just care that you're conservative. And so it was more of a big tent philosophy. Whereas what correlates with Christian nationalism is this level of race realism that I think is pretty fucking toxic. And I think that the dissident right wing, while it's enjoying a lot of momentum with angry white men, and so they're getting hundreds of thousands of views and tons of super chats, and they feel like they're breaking into the political zeitgeist, I think they're going to get hoisted by their own petard, because the angry white men are a large segment of the American population, but it's probably a few 100,000 or a few million people. So when you're talking about a country of 330 million who end up hating you because you're a spiteful, and I'm not even saying racist to pearl clutch, I'm saying racist to be descriptive. When you're a spiteful, racist, antisocial, incel freak, like, that's not a strong basis on which to build a political movement. And so good for them for getting their time in the sun, but I think this thing is going to kick him in the dick super hard. Anonymous Chatter for 5 says, Connor, guy sitting next to me and I'm supposed to pretend I can't tell if he's black or Asian. Me laughs in Tiger Woods. If you guys have not seen the racial draft skit from the Chappelle show from 20 years ago involving Tiger Woods, please type that into your YouTube search bar on a different tab and save that for when the stream is over. Quick chill. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. I know it's a holiday. I know it's a chill day. I know a lot of people have already spent a lot of money on the holiday. I'm not worried about it. You guys were super generous yesterday. If you do have money burning a hole in your pocket, please share it. If you don't worry about it. Just enjoy the content. We're having a chill day.
Everybody else got banned. Going back even further, going back to like 2016. People like Gavin McInnes, Alex Jones, they were unpersoned. They were banned from everything. They were gone. They never stood a chance. People like Sam Hyde lost his TV show, then got banned on everything. It was impossible to compete because we could not take, and I include myself in that also, we could not bring our product to the marketplace. If the product is the content or the show, we were not able even to play in the same ballpark. We weren't even able to play in the league. And so for the same amount of time that these other groups were the number 2 ad buyer on Facebook, they were number 1 podcast for conservatives on YouTube. They had a deal with TikTok in the 2024 election to get their content amplified and promoted, whereas they were being promoted and steadily accumulating and growing and building, making a living, building a subscriber base, building an audience. All the rest of us were out there dying, losing momentum, losing subscribers, losing money because we were banned. And it's not a coincidence that this is the first year that everything opened up, and then all of a sudden, guess what becomes popular? Lo and behold, after 10 years of censorship, blacklisting, cancel culture, all of that, finally it starts to recede a little bit. Finally, they start to open it up, and all of a sudden, the number 1 shows, it's like Tucker, Candace, Nick Fuentes. Surprise, surprise.
I have an alternative explanation, though. I think that the right wing, even the moderate right wing, in order to appeal to the Trump base, has routinely needed to traffic in conspiracism. And what I mean by that is that when it comes to COVID, okay, or actually when it comes to Trump, okay, when it comes to Trump, the Never Trump Republicans, including Ben Shapiro and Conservative Inc., they didn't like Trump at first. You can go back. You can find Glenn Beck. You can find Ben Shapiro talking shit about Trump and how he was like an evil, manipulative piece of shit who was going to skin the Republican Party alive and then wear its skin on his face like some kind of serial killer. Like you can find those clips of Ben Shapiro, Glenn Beck, a whole host of other people who did it. But then they realized that the political momentum was with Trump, and Trump is fucking crazy, as is his base. And then when it came to COVID, like at first, Ben Shapiro was like, oh yeah, based off of statistics, COVID is potentially deadly to all sorts of folks, including young people, including healthy people. And so based off of the available science, we think that the vaccines, even if they're mRNA, they're probably statistically more safe than raw dogging it. And so as a result, you can get vaccinated. You can find tweets like that. But they realized, because there were people like the Hodge twins, there were people like Steven Crowder, there were people like who were on the right wing who were dog whistling about election conspiracism, election fraud, COVID fraud, COVID conspiracism, all that kind of stuff. And they realized that's where the political momentum was. And so what's happened is they kept the conspiracist elements and entertaining elements of conspiracy-based thinking kept going further and further and further right. And Nick and Candace and Tucker and Alex Jones were kind of just outside the Overton window. Well, all of the normie conservatives, through this perverse incentive structure where the easiest way to be most successful is to be inflammatory, the normies got dragged out to the freaks. But now I think the freaks are so freakish. Once again, I'll say it. I think they're going to be hoisted by their own petard. And so, yeah, in the short term, it's going to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars, media attention, and all that bullshit. You will be a successful streamer and a successful podcaster and a successful YouTuber or Rumbler if you engage in this hyperbolic, psychotic, shitty behavior. But what's going to happen is you're going to be, number one, you're going to be in a gilded cage that you can never leave. If you're a psycho freak, you're going to attract a bunch of psycho freaks. So your entire audience is going to be psycho freaks. And then number two, if you ever want to have a normal take, if you ever have a normal take, your audience will eat you alive. That's what happened to Candace Owens. That's what happens to Nick whenever he opens up his super chats. Dude, I would love to watch the Nick Fuentes super chat segment, but the Nick Fuentes super chat segment, the best clips from it are Nick slamming his head into the desk because he hates the audience that he's cultivated, because they're freaks. And so that's where I feel like these people are going to get their asses kicked eventually. Real serious for 100 ARS. Thank you, King. Happy New Year, Connor. Really nice to find a niche community for peeps who are moderately right-wing economically, but not absolutely unhinged. Just a shame Pisco outed you as a groiper. Oh, well. Thanks, King. Parasocial love to you. I will like that super chat and I'll love it. Thank you to Harmonic Fox for the 2. And Harmonic, I hope you noticed that I made you you said you wanted to be blue for New Year's. I made you a mod, so you're blue now, okay? All right. Let's keep it flowing, though.
When you stop censoring the conversation, people have an appetite for white identity, criticism of
Demon says from Australia, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, King.
Jews in Israel, criticism of feminism. Guys like Andrew Tate become the most famous people in the world.
Sorry, I have to address this. I know people don't like it when I pause Andy, or at least VOD viewers don't. But I'm going to pause Andy. It's my show. If you want to watch the original, go watch the original, okay? Are you saying blue Harmonic Fox? Yeah, I made them wrenches. Or I made them a wrench, at least for today. Harmonic doesn't want to be a mod long term, but I'm making them blue for the day. Why is blue a thing for New Year? Somebody explain it to me. But this is what frustrates me about the lack of moral clarity within the dissident right wing, okay? Andrew Tate is a credibly accused rapist. And what I mean by that is there is a video of him on video with a 15-year-old girl beating her while she's in lingerie. There is no way for that girl to consent to that, like, sex acts that presumably happened afterwards. She was 15. It's impossible for her to consent to sex acts. And also, he was physically abusing her. Now, Lauren Southern, 2 women in the United Kingdom, and a woman in Los Angeles have all said that Andrew Tate either drugged them, got them drunk, or began a consensual sexual encounter and then made it violent and physically abusive halfway through the encounter. And they did not consent to the violence and the violence of the situation. And as a result, they were effectively raped. That is from half a dozen women in the United Kingdom, et cetera, et cetera. And the pattern of behavior that they describe is identical to each other. Okay. Then not only that, the way that Andrew Tate made his money is by using the lover boy method to recruit women into Romania and then pimping them out. Justin says, have a good stream and a happy new year. Isn't this your guy? Justin, isn't this your guy? What, I'm talking shit about Andrew Tate and you can't stand me talking shit about Andrew Tate? What's happening there? What's happening there, big guy? Okay. So anyways, Justin, don't leave listen, Justin, no offense, but if you're going to like sweep for like rape and sex trafficking, I don't know why you would call yourself a Christian. Okay. So yeah, and then the way that he made his money is he used the lover boy method in order to recruit women into, okay, Andrew Tate is gay. Okay, all right. Got it. Yeah, we're talking shit about Andrew Tate while we're watching Nick Fuentes content. I thought that would be right up your alley. Anyways, the point is, the fact that Nick is claiming Christianity and he's associating a pimp who rapes people as a part of his movement is frustrating beyond belief. Let's go.
So that's number one. Where did the generational come from? Well, they stopped suppressing me for a short amount of time. For roughly half of this year, I had no obstacles on that front, and I became massive. Number two, and this is the other thing that nobody ever talks about. Where did the generational run come from? Number two. Again, a lot of people say, well, he's expressing a popular discontent, but here's where he gets it wrong. Well, he's expressing this popular anger, this, that, or the other. The generational run really got off the ground roughly around May and June. And why is it around May or June that this show started to gain a lot of traction? It was because of a very specific news story. It wasn't a particular collaboration. It wasn't a particular interview. Up until the middle of this year, I didn't get a major interview. I had some good interviews. I'm not knocking them, but I didn't get really a massive mainstream interview until later into the summer. But I had my biggest show to date at that point in June, having not had any major mainstream collaborations. Nobody put me on. Nobody had me on a massive show.
Is it Tucker? What's it going to be? I'm kind of curious.
The biggest show that I had to date in the middle of the year was during the Israel-Iran war.
There you go. That makes sense, actually. I'm going to pause real quick in order to read some super chats because we had some people come through. Thank you to I did set a goal. Don't worry about it. You guys have been super generous this year, but we're at 2 out of 10 on the goal. Still got 2 hours left. Anonymous chatter. Or excuse me, Old School. That's where we were. Old School for 5 says, got to go fix my world famous split pea and ham soup for New Year's. Have another $5 for the Cyberpunk 2077 fund. At this point, I just feel like I need to play it. Thank you, Old School. Anonymous chatter for another 5 says, sorry, Mrs. Points. I was behind in chat and didn't hear how we're supposed to stop the race stuff. I'll start writing sentences on the blackboard. Thank you. Real serious. That one is the one that I read. Harmonic Fox with the 2. And then AKA Batu Sai. Happy New Year. Connor, are we trying to say the F word less this year, or is it a Valor Media Network thing? Either way, I'm behind on the big screen. No problem. So I like being profane with you guys. I like talking about crazy things. I like talking about crazy topics. I like being vulgar and profane. However, my kids are home during Christmas break. And in general, my wife wants me to reduce the amount of profanity and the amount of schizophrenic political stuff that I talk about. So in a routine family situation. So my family is bullying me into being more normal.
My biggest show to date this year was when Israel bombed Iran and started the war. And then my biggest show to date after that, which was even bigger, was the night that the United States bombed Iran. Why do you think that is? It's because in 2024, I was well known as being one of the only people that didn't vote for Trump. And I didn't vote for Trump because I predicted he would bring us to war with Iran. And I had been predicting for years that it would play out in exactly that way.
Where Nick is wrong. I wish, Justin, I'm really trying not to be insulting, so do not take this personally. I've said a lot of spicy things about Nick. And I've said a lot of spicy things about Nick, and I'm not trying to be too offensive. But this is where I think Groypers are midwits, okay? A limited tactical strike on a nuclear facility is not the same as a ground invasion similar to the war on terror. It's just not. These are categorically different things. The same way that a ground invasion of Venezuela is not the same as Trump saber rattling and seizing oil tankers and seizing, their assets. Who cares? You're coping. How am I coping? Nick got this totally wrong. He said that we were going to be in a ground war in Iran. He's pretending things are the same so you don't notice. We shouldn't do anything for them. That's not the same point. If Nick has a prediction that he is pretending he was factually correct on, but he's demonstrably factually incorrect on, then you should be like, oh, this guy's lying a little bit. Oh, this guy's exaggerating how correct he is. Oh, this guy's a propagandist. Like, that should be the revelation here. He said ground war. I would have to check the tapes. He actually literally just said that we were going to be at war with Iran. We're not at war with Iran right now. Oh, thank you, Mr. Batusai. 10 gifted Valor Media Network memberships. Thank you, King. All right. Thank you, King. Thank you, AKA Batusai. I know we beef sometimes. I hope you find it as entertaining as I do. All right. Anyways, back to it. What a king. Thank you, AKA Batusai.
Ever since October 7th, I had predicted that Trump would be elected because he is the pro-Israel candidate. And he would be elected in part because he would take us to war with Iran in fulfillment of Israel's multi-year, multi-front regional ambitions to create a greater Israel and neutralize all their enemies.
Earshot and Justin and whoever else. Do you know how annoying it is to have you guys go, did he say that? Did he say that? Did he say that we were going to do a ground war in Iran? Did he say that? And then 30 seconds later, Nick says something even more extreme. Okay? I'm being rude. But the reason why I'm being rude is because I don't watch all of Nick's content. Okay. I watch it on occasion because it's entertaining. It's fun to engage with. He's a charismatic guy. He says a lot of jokes. He's quite funny. He has a decent understanding of history. Nick's an interesting guy. Okay. So, but I'm not totally familiar with all of his content. So when you say, oh yeah, did he say that we were going to do a ground invasion? I'm like, oh shit. Maybe he has like more nuanced content, right? Maybe there's content out there where he's talking about how it's going to be limited strikes, about how we're not going to overthrow the regime because the United States of America is war weary after the global war on terror. Maybe he's going to say that, but that's not what he said. That's not what he said. He just said the opposite. He just said that Israel wants to overthrow the Iranian regime using the United States of America in order to establish the project of Greater Israel. That's an even crazier take that he's wrong on. So for you guys to come in and be like, did he say that? And then run away when he says something even more extreme is incredibly frustrating. Matter of fact, I'm gonna play a clip for you for the exact thing that I just experienced. Okay. I'm gonna show you what flashbanged in my mind when I get done saying, hold on, Boogie, I want to die. Let's find this. Oh, is it? Why wouldn't that pop up instantaneously? Here we go. Okay. This is me when... Aren't you being pedantic? Do you get the point? Do you understand there's a massive difference between a limited airstrike campaign and a ground invasion in Asia, Justin? Do you understand the degrees of separation between those 2 points? It's between, if a airstrike is a 1 and a ground invasion in Asia is a 100, there are a billion degrees of violence between those 2 things. Okay. So anyways, this is what you made me psychically experience. Not you, Justin, but Hearshot. This is what Hearshot made me experience. Okay. You ready? I'm ready.
I hate being alive. I hate being alive. I hate being alive.
Hold on. I gotta make sure that the audio is properly boosted. Let's get the audio properly boosted. All right, you ready? You ready? I'm ready.
I hate being alive. I hate being alive. I hate breathing. I hate being alive. I'm in tremendous pain. I'm in tremendous pain. Help me, help me, help me. I'm in so much pain. I'm in so much pain. I'm in so much pain.
All right, well then, okay, let's get off
What
that.
else?
Hearshot. That's what you did to me. A couple of super chats came through. Anonymous chatter for 5. I need someone to sit me down and explain to me like I'm 5 how the Israel lobby is more influential than the coal, oil, sugar, big tech, etc. lobbies. They're just powerful. Fellrunner. Justin, don't leave the cog. Dude, are you and Justin butt buddies? What's happening? Doobie says, how can you follow politics at all and not know that Israel wants the U.S. help to help them topple Iran's government so they can continue their Greater Israel project without well-funded resistance? On what timeline, Doobie? On what timeline? Okay? On what timeline? I have to pull up a drawing. You guys are making me do this. You guys are hurting me psychically. You're making me do this. Okay. Here is what was promised to Abraham, and this is the map of what Greater Israel would be. Okay, it would be this shape. It would be everything east of the Nile, everything west of the Euphrates, and it would be like this little square thing. And you can actually look at the map. It actually like is that shape. And then it would be some areas of northern Saudi Arabia. So what you're saying is that the Israeli government, which ancient Israel and Judah occupied this territory, which is shockingly similar to the shape of modern Israel, and currently occupies this territory. What you just said to me is that because they want to take all of the territory west of the Euphrates and all of the territory east of the Nile, that they're destabilizing Iran so nobody can stand in their way. So you're honestly telling me that Israel wants to retake the Sinai, that they want to reconquer the Eastern Nile, that they want to steamroll Jordan, that they want to take Western Iraq and Northern Saudi Arabia? Like, there might be legitimate Israeli Zionist schizophrenics who think that that's possible, But I don't think there's a single secular Israeli who thinks that they're going to be able to pull that off. That's fucking crazy. Doobie says, on this current timeline, you brainlet, look up Bibi's comments on Greater Israel. You think he's meeting with Trump and saying Iran might nuke the U.S. for no reason? Okay. Let's look up Bibi Netanyahu's comments on Greater Israel. Why don't we? Why don't we? Acknowledging that Bibi Netanyahu is a part of a right-wing government that plenty of Israelis hate. Let's see what Bibi Netanyahu says about Greater Israel. I swear to God, Doobie, you're just gonna psychically damage the shit out of me. Bibi Netanyahu, Greater Israel.
To the brave people of Iran, and I have a message for them. Our fight is not with you. Our fight is with the brutal dictatorship that has oppressed you for 46 years.
Oh, how original. You might be wondering, why does this message sound familiar?
I have a message for the people of Lebanon. Israel's war is not with you. It's with Hezbollah. For too long, Hezbollah has been using you as human shields. I want to use this opportunity and speak to the people of Gaza. Heed the warnings of the IDF, the Israeli army.
I gotta boost the audio. If this is somebody saying what Bibi Netanyahu is saying, all right, here we go. Greater Israel plan.
But why is Israel democracy suddenly being violently exported to Iran without provocation? Because the real goal here is neither peace nor democracy. It's based on Eretz Yisrael, or Greater Israel, a Zionist fantasy of expanding Israel's 1967 borders way beyond what international law recognizes and into the sovereign territory of Israel's neighbors. An ethno-nationalist dream of a historic Jewish homeland stretching from the Nile to the Euphrates, regardless of who lives there today. It's not just a fringe idea. It has quietly shaped Israeli right-wing policy for decades and serves as the blueprint for occupation, invasion, and annexation. And Netanyahu seems to have emerged as the face behind this plan, with his actions aligning perfectly and destructively with this vision of territorial expansionism.
The Greater Israel plan goes back to Theodor Herzl, to the very beginning of the creation of the Zionist movement. The idea that they would have Eretz Israel, this is the land of Israel. And the land of Israel, according to their calculations from the Bible and from their conception of what it was, stretched not just to the historic territory of Mandate Palestine and to what's now called Jordan, also to Lebanon and Syria and most of Iraq and part of Egypt. It even stretched up to part of Turkey.
And the way.
Do you know how annoying it is to get, number one, we're not getting quotes from Bibi Netanyahu. So Doobie, if you want to DM me on Discord, if you have a specific clip from Bibi Netanyahu saying that this is what he wants to do. Well, what's annoying to me is that there's actual geopolitical historical considerations in reference to like sovereignty, defensibility, what's possible, what's pragmatic, et cetera, et cetera. That's all entirely possible. There's also a plurality of belief within societies at different points. So for instance, like Abraham Lincoln was opposed to the Mexican-American War because he thought it was an unjust expansion of the United States into territories for which it had no historical claim. He was broadly ignored, and the American people continued to do that anyways because they weren't opposed. But the problem with the Greater Israel plan, with the map that they're showing right now, is you have existing states like Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Western Iraq, Northern Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. And so you already have those polities, and not only do those polities exist, they outnumber the Israeli people by a factor of like 10 to 1. So are we talking about like a 1,000-year project? And also, are we talking about a 1,000-year project that involves 5%, 10% of the population believing in this? Because where I get whiplash is I say, and this is the other thing that pisses me off about Doobie. You're totally incoherent. I say that greater Israel is rooted in the Bible, and you say, no. It's a secular belief. It's a secular system. It has nothing to do with the Bible. And it's like, what? That's what the people that you're advocating for are saying, is that the claims of greater Israel are specifically rooted in the Bible and popular in Orthodox and devout Jewish sects. And then also, how many Jews are even religious literalists? How many Israelis are devout Jews? 7.2 million Israelis are Jewish. About 73% of the population. The number of practicing Jews varies greatly by definition, with roughly 10 to 15% being ultra-Orthodox or Haredi, another 10 to 15% being very observant Dati. So that's 30% of the population. And many more identifying as Masorti or secular Haloni, although even many secular Jews observe some customs like Passover. So 70% of the population isn't even ultra-Orthodox or believing in this like right-wing shit. And I'm sure that there are secularists who believe in greater Israel as a project for whatever reason. But how much of the population are they? Masorti are normies. Halani are secularists. So literally half the population is secular. An additional 25 to 35% of them are normie Jews. 10% of them are conservative, and then 10% of them are ultra conservative. So once again, you need to be specific. What do you mean? You mean that Israel, who can't even like fully destroy and conquer Gaza and the West Bank right now, what year do you expect them to? As a matter of fact, answer me this specific question, okay? When we're looking at the map, I'm sorry I'm getting so animated and so pissed off, but it's so annoying to have so many different like conspiracy theories floating around with no sense of solidity. Okay? Excuse me. So if we're looking at the map, promise to Abraham, which of course you said earlier has nothing to do with Zionism, totally psychotic, that we're now dealing with the opposite of it. But when we're talking about the modern state of Israel, who still needs to absorb the West Bank and still needs to absorb Gaza just to even have territorial integrity right here, at what point do you predict, what year do you predict that Israel is going to invade Egypt in order to claim the Sinai and the Eastern Nile? And what year do you think they're going to invade Jordan? Can you just riddle me that real quick? Just give me a year. 2100, 2200, 2500, 2700, 2900, 3100. When is Israel going to do that? Please give me a specific answer. All right. I'm going to keep watching this clip because it is pertinent, and I have people who frustrate me, is the nice way I'll put it, in chat, who are going to say that if I don't watch the entire thing, I'm going to miss a clip. So we're going to keep watching this.
It's used today is to provide a religious justification for Zionism, for colonialism, for, if you like, Western imperialism in the Middle East. And it's an exclusive claim, meaning that they believe that the land was given exclusively to the descendants of Isaac as opposed to the descendants of Ishmael. Incidentally, Israel is also...
Okay, greater. You're saying that there's a specific one. BB mask off on Greater Israel.
All right, let's go ahead and throw this up on the screen. A little update about some of the full mask off that the Israelis are going on at this point. So Netanyahu says he is on a historic and spiritual mission, and that he feels a connection to the vision of Greater Israel. Let me go ahead and read this. Specifically, he was asked if he feels a connection to that vision of Greater Israel. Netanyahu says, quote, very much. That question about a Greater Israel, after he asked the premier if he feels he's on a mission on behalf of the Jewish people, Netanyahu answers he's on a mission of generations. There are generations of Jews that dreamt of coming here and generations of Jews who will come after us. So if you're asking if I have a sense of mission, historically and spiritually, the answer is yes. And this has been a pretty consistent theme here, Sagar, that like from the...
Okay, where's his plan to invade? Again, I'm going to ask you, you're kind of pissing me off. Where's the plan to invade their neighbors and what year? Okay, what year? What year? What year do you think? All right, let me open up the super chats real quick and get one guide by Doobie. Okay. Doobie says that's such a level 1 entry level bit of knowledge you have to be willfully ignoring in order to not think it's true. On this currently timeline, you brainlet, look up BB's comments on Greater Israel. I just did. You think he's meeting with Trump and saying Iran might nuke the U.S. for no reason. Look up his interview. The video you're watching is going over the history, so it's going over your head. BB, it's not, nothing's going over my head, Doobie. There's not a single thing that's gone over my head in the past 20 minutes. BB did an interview where he was asked about it directly by a guy holding up the map. No, you had asked. I said early Zionism was a secular movement. You can just look it up. Early religious Jews rejected the plan to create an Israel because it's heretical without the Messiah. They just claimed Jordanian land. Why would you, Doobie, this is where you're pissing me off. If I said that the modern state of Israel backs its history up to the ancient state of Israel, why would adding in early Zionists were secular change a single fucking thing I said? Why would that be a detail that you would even bring up unless you wanted to somehow disconnect the modern state of Israel from the ancient state of Israel? That was the point during that debate. I remember it vividly. So why does that matter at all? Why would you bring up that they were secularist? It doesn't make any fucking sense. No, you had asked. I said early Zionism was a secular movement. That's the one that I just read. They just claimed Jordanian land last year. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're talking long enough into interview to see the full picture. You just heard BB's comments where he acknowledged that Greater Israel is a historical and spiritual goal he's wanting towards. How can you hear that and not think it's a conspiracy? Is he lying? Okay, answer my question. Because I'm getting one guide and I'm getting pissed off, and I want to engage in the Nick Fuentes content. When you're saying that they're claiming Jordanian territory, is it Jordanian territory on the west bank of the Nile, or is it on the eastern side of the Nile, or is it in northeastern Israel where there's militants who line up and shoot rockets and shoot guns into Israel from Syria and Jordan? What territory? And then also, I want a specific answer to this question. I don't want another super chat. I don't want another comment from you. I want you to answer this question. When, because there's the River Jordan, and to the east of the Jordanian River is the country of Jordan. So when is Israel going to launch a military or colonial campaign in order to colonize east of the River Jordan? What's your prediction? Also, what year do you predict that Israel is going to start either colonizing and settling the Sinai and or militarily invading the Sinai? Answer those questions, because I think that'll cut to the heart of the matter. Anyways, I'm gonna watch the content. Doobie's pissing me off.
And so when Israel bombed Iran and the United States followed up with airstrikes of its own, people ran to watch the show to see what I had to say about it, because I was the only one that predicted it. So I didn't launch the generational run because I was being a shock jock, because I was trolling, because I played this shell game where I pretend to be mainstream and I go on Bradley Martin and I act one way, and then I go on my show and
I do think he acted a lot more normal during normie interviews. I think this is kind of cope, but that's okay. You act different in different contexts. The way that you act in an online debate is different than the way that you act in an online conversation or an in-person conversation. An in-person debate is oftentimes socially different than a online debate, vice versa, all that bullshit. So,
and act like a jerk. The generational run started because I was right, because I was speaking the truth about Jews in Israel, but also their relationship with Trump. And I was the only one who did it. I was the only one that stuck it out and said that, even in 2024, which is pretty late in the game for someone like me, pretty late in the game, actually, for everybody. Just when everybody thought they had it all figured out about Israel, about Trump and the Republicans versus the Democrats, just when everybody thought they had it all figured out, I threw a big curveball and said, there's something that people are missing, which is that Trump is being allowed to walk through into the halls of power because they know that he will scuttle any diplomacy with Iran. That'll be their opportunity to carry out these strikes. And that's exactly what happened. And it was thanks to my analysis, which was precise and specific and accurate.
I don't want this. I don't want this. Anytime they expand into someone else's territory that they can then justify they're expanding further for their security, they're doing this. You're either being willfully obtuse or too lazy to inform. What's BB lying? Doobie, I don't want to answer your question. I want you to answer my question. What year do you predict that Israel, a nation state of 15 million people that does have a positive birth rate, so it's entirely possible, you could come up with a narrative in your mind, and maybe I would even accept it as being possible. Okay, you said you just answered it, so I'll scroll up and take a look at it. But if they have a positive birth rate, maybe maybe Nick Fuentes is right. Maybe condoms are a Jewish invention. And as a result, all of the Goyim are decreasing their birth rates to the point that only the Jews are going to have a positive birth rate. And as a result, all of the Arab nations are going to fall into disrepair. Nobody's going to be left because they're too busy looking at pornography and they're too busy using condoms in order to have a bunch of kids. So then Jordan and Saudi Arabia and Lebanon and Egypt go into a birth rate death spiral. And then the only people who have a positive birth rate is the state of Israel. And so they start annexing all the surrounding territories. So my question to you is, what year? Okay. What year do you predict that the state of Israel is going to invade Jordan, and like Jordan east of the River Jordan and the Sinai? I can pull up the map if you need me to be even more specific. So I'm going to scroll and I'm going to look for a year. You already said that you answered the question. So let me go ahead and take a look and see if I can find it. 2 days before the day after tomorrow. Right. So we got memes. We got memes from Hearshot. You didn't answer my question. I'm scrolling between your last two super chats. I don't see a year. I am asking you for a year, Doobie. What year do you predict that the Israeli population will be large enough that they will be able to physically incur on Jordanian and Egyptian territory? I want a specific year. Yeah, Harmonic Fox is 1998. I just answered it, laughed my ass off. No, you didn't. I don't see a year. What's the year? Tell me. All right, I'm going to keep the content going until you tell me a year.
Accurate, which is where the whole thing started. And then once people watched the show, they said, wow, okay, so this guy isn't just some hateful maniac. He actually knows what he's talking about. We're actually learning information. We're actually getting good at
I'm going to get some water. I'll be right back.
Analysis. And it's not just a crackpot conspiracy theory. It's based in reality. That's number two. Number three, and this is maybe more to the point, this is the biggest thing. Where did the generational run come from this year? And this is speaking a little bit more to those issues that people talk about. They say, well, it's the housing prices. They say it's the left bullying everybody. It's this, that, or the other. I think, to put it very simply, in the most basic and simple possible terms, people have an appetite for this show because they see that the country is dying. In the simplest version of the idea, and I've been saying it all throughout the year in one way and another, the simplest form of the idea is that people recognize the country is dying. And what exactly does that mean? I think we understand it very deeply when we celebrate Christmas. Because Christmas is something that used to be sacrosanct. And in many ways, we identify Christmas as a quintessential American holiday. Maybe we shouldn't, and maybe that's misguided, and maybe there's even something sacrilegious about that. That's actually a source of criticism and cynicism. Santa Claus is a creation of Coca-Cola, and people say the holiday is too consumerist. It's too commercial. And people say maybe we've gotten away from the true meaning of Christmas or the true spirit of it or something like that. But I believe that the sentiment that surrounds Christmas and the traditions that surround.
Okay. You're thinking like a brutish neocon. Israel plays a long game like any other intelligent nation. They do things in increments over long periods. They don't need a full-on invasion 1948 to 2025. Okay. I'm going to let this play while I draw a drawing.
Around it. Whatever you may think about them, the shopping and Santa Claus and the tree and the music and all those things, if there's anything that reminds us what it is to be who we are, it is Christmas. That is the most treasured and maybe the most shared memory that we all have in common from our childhood. That's maybe the one decent thing, even in the 21st century, that we all still have. Maybe that's the one day in every person's childhood, from coast to coast, wherever you are, whoever you are, where you remember what it feels like to be home. When you're surrounded by family, when you're at the tree, Santa brought the presents, having Christmas or Christmas Eve dinner. And we see the way our country is going, and we realize there won't even be a Christmas in the new America. Forget about the rest of it, which is a little bit all over the place. Maybe not everybody plays baseball anymore, and obviously politics has polarized everybody. And a lot of things about our country have changed. But we're looking down the barrel of a future where in 50 or 100 years, maybe one day the country wakes up and it's just December 25th. And it doesn't mean anything. And maybe people are out working and the shops are open and people are at school. And how many people are even celebrating? Are there public celebrations? You see, for example, in Europe, they had to shut down the Christmas markets. They had to shut down many of the Christmas celebrations because they are being invaded by Muslims and Africans that not only don't celebrate Christmas, but are hostile. There was a church in Scotland where a statue of the baby Jesus was decapitated. And they defaced the church with a message that said, "You're finished here."
This is doomer cringe bullshit where Nick is appealing to the worst elements of modern society in order to say, oh, this is going to go in perpetuity for, as a matter of fact, isn't there there's a meme about this. This is the meme that I should have hit Lauren Southern with a few years ago. My baby has doubled in size meme. This is what Nick does. This is what Doobie is doing with Greater Israel. And this is what Nick Fuentes is doing in reference to Muslim invasions of Europe. My 3-month-old son is now twice as big as when he was born. He's on track to weigh 7.5 trillion pounds by age 10. This is something that Nick Fuentes does. This is something that Lauren Southern did back when she was doing commentary. This is something that Doobie is doing in my chat right now, is because you can point to, let's say that we go over here, and I have to presume that the Jordanian territory that is being incurred on is up here. I have to assume that that's what it is, okay? Or maybe south of the Jordanian territory. But this is the current border as we understand it. So Doobie should be able to come up with like a pretty easy answer of like, oh yeah, actually factually, what happened here is there's a border dispute in Hamat Gator where some militants in Al-Makhaba got into a gunfight with IDF. So IDF like invaded this Jordanian sovereign territory in order to hold the ground against militants who are operating against this town. And this is technically an invasion of Jordanian sovereign territory. You should be able to tell me that. Alternatively, you should be able to say, oh yeah, down here in the town of Sukim or something, there's the Israel-Jordanian border. Actually, they took the Wadi Araba Park for whatever reason. Okay, you should be able to tell me the specifics. But what I'm asking you, oh, sorry. I'm not even showing you guys the map. So here's the map. So what I was saying is on the northern side of Israel, there could be a border skirmish here, or they could be a border skirmish here. And you should be able to tell me the specifics. But what Doobie is instead saying, which is pissing me off, you're thinking like a brutish neocon. Israel plays a long game like any other intelligent nation. Okay. So let me understand the game plan real quick. So Israel, because all Jews and all Israelis agree on the greater Israel plan, they're not a diverse people with a variety of beliefs, and some of them do not include greater Israel. But because Israel and Jews are a monolith and they all agree on the exact same game plan, what they're going to do is they're going to promote secularism, pornography, and condoms worldwide. So the entire population, except for the state of Israel, has a negative birth rate. Then what they're going to do is they're going to wait until the Egyptians, the Jordanians, and the Saudis are so depopulated that they can't even resist militarily. Then they're going to start a series of settler colonial projects in the city of Amman, in the city in Sinai, in what is it? The Northern Sinai Governorate. They're actually going to make an offer to buy the Sinai from Egypt because there's actually not that many people that live here. So they're going to purchase the Sinai state. But eventually, in 1,000 years, the Jews are going to be occupying the city of New Cairo because they have a positive birth rate and all the Arab Muslims are dead. Or they're so depopulated they don't even care. Or they're so depopulated that Israel is going to militarily invade this area. So I'm asking you, what year? Right? Because Israel already had the Sinai. They already occupied this. They already owned this territory. They gave it back to Egypt because they weren't capable of defending it. They've probably already taken Jordanian territory in previous wars. They've probably already taken Syrian territory as a result of the weakness of the Syrian central government and the militants who are launching rockets and getting into gunfights with Israelis. So when does the invasion of Lebanon begin? When does the invasion of Syria begin? When does the invasion of Jordan begin? Because if you think this, you should be able to come up with a number. You should be like, oh yeah, like based off of current demographic trends, I think that Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Western Iraq are going to be depopulated sufficiently that Israel could start a ground invasion of these territories within the year 2500 or 3000 or 2900. You should be able to come up with a number out of your ass and just say, based off of my guts, I think that this is going to happen. But the reason why I think that you're not coming up with a number, the reason why you're not giving me a specific date is because it's geopolitical nonsense. It's nonsense. There is no military or population capacity for 15 million Jews to take over the state of Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, or Egypt. They do not have the demographic or military capacity. They probably won't have the demographic or military capacity 500 years from now. They probably won't have the demographic or military capacity 1,000 years from now. That's why I'm getting pissed off. All right. Anyways, going to move this over here. I'm going to keep drawing a drawing. I'm going to keep let Nick Fuentes talk about how, you know, 1,000 years from now, Christianity isn't going to exist. And then I'm just going to point out this meme again, where my 3-month-old is now twice the size as he was when he was born. He's on track to weigh 7.5 million pounds. This is what you guys are doing with the state of Israel.
You're finished here. And they decapitated a statue of the baby Jesus. And it's hard not to feel like that isn't true. Or rather, it's hard to feel like that isn't true when they say you're finished here. It does sort of feel like we're finished here, doesn't it? It feels like we're finished in Germany. It feels like we're...
Oh, it feels like we're finished in a country a million miles away that I've never visited that's actually physically beautiful, where 99% of the people are happy every single day. It feels like we're finished there. Don't you think that all the Muslims in Europe are actually identical to your pathetic basement-dwelling incel life? Don't you think your inability to get laid and get a good job is identical to what's happening in Germany right now? Don't you feel the emotional impact of Muslims living next to Christians and secularists in Germany is identical to your shitty life? Yeah, Nick. Yeah, Nick. Okay.
We're finished in France. It feels like we're finished in England, in Italy.
Places I've never been, places I'll never visit, places I'll never talk to the people who are local.
It feels like we're finished in America. We see where the arrow is pointing. We see that Zoran Mamdani
I'm pointing to history, the current day, the stated goals of the leadership. You're gargling piss and telling us it's rain. No, so far you've given me 2 clips of Bibi Netanyahu saying, yeah, I feel connected to the ancient state of Israel. And he's talking to a guy who's talking about the Greater Israel Project. And you're like, see, they want to militarily conquer Jordan. They want to militarily conquer northern Saudi Arabia. They want to militarily conquer Lebanon. They want to militarily conquer southwestern Syria. They want to militarily and colonize eastern Egypt. And you're acting like these are the same things as getting into a scuffle with Gaza. It's not the same thing. This is very R-slurred. Ranger Nation Dubs for 5 says, Doobie's obsession with Israel is weird. Isn't he pro-American colonization? What is Israel doing that's so unique and bad that no other country has? Let's not do that one. That's a whole nother can of worms. Thank you for the super chat, though.
Is the socialist mayor of New York. Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be the governor of Ohio. Usha Vance is going to be the first lady. In Texas, it's a tug of war between Indians taking over the rich new construction subdivisions in Frisco and the Muslims building their new subdivision in Dallas, where they're going to have a super mosque in the center of it. And Seattle is filled with Indians, and San Francisco is filled with Chinese, and Los Angeles.
Ali, Doobie refuses to give me a specific year that Israel's going to begin its invasion of eastern Egypt, southern Lebanon, and Jordan. So I want a specific year from you. Project Ali for $5 says, isn't that how Putin talks about Russia and its history and then his actions prove his intention? Sure. So you guys should be able to give me a specific year. What you think Bibi Netanyahu is lying? Lying about what? He said he has a connection to the historical Israel. Give me a year. None of you pussies are giving me a year. It's actually frustrating as hell. Why can't you guys just write 2,500? Why can't you write 2,600? Why can't you write 2,700, 2,900, 3,100? Just give me a year. Give me a ballpark year that you said 20 to 25 years, depending on how support is after Gaza. 20 to 25 years for what? You think in 25 years, they're going to be invading Western Jordan? Well, I appreciate you at least giving me a year. Doobie says next year. Yeah, the year 6-7. I hate you. I hate you so much. Bruh, you guys could have said 2067 so many times. Oh, I hate you guys. All right. Let's keep going.
Angeles is filled with Mexicans and Venezuelans. And it feels like we're finished. We're done. The country of the last 100 years is going to apparently die before the conclusion of this century, before the conclusion of this 100 years. And I'll tell you the nature of this. It has to do with our identity. It has to do with our religion, and it has to do with our race. What it is to be American is to be European and to be Christian. That is what it is actually to be an American. And the day that America ceases to be mostly or meaningfully European and Christian, it's no longer going to feel like America. When the country is divided up between minorities, blacks, African immigrants, Asians, Indians, Chinese, Hispanics, Muslims, is it going to meaningfully feel like America, or even any country at all for that matter? Will it feel like a country at all? When you're riding on the public transit, when you're at the office, when you're at school, when you're watching these movies, with all the diversity, will it even feel like we have a country at all? Forget about whether it is America. Will it even be a coherent whole? It feels like the answer is no. And it feels like we're finished. We're done. And if the country is its people, and it is, the United States of America doesn't exist outside of the Americans, outside of the actual flesh and blood people like George Washington or Henry Ford or Charles Lindbergh or Thomas Jefferson or Abraham Lincoln or Frank.
Dude, what a pussy, man. And pusillanimous, all right? Cowardly, craven. What a cowardly and craven perspective, dude. how many people have said it's so over and they were totally wrong? When the Western Roman Empire fell, was it over? When the Eastern Roman Empire fell, was it over? When the entire world wars killed millions of people, was it over? When the Native Americans started getting their shit kicked in and European colonials colonized this land, was it over? When the category of what those Europeans were shifted from Anglos to Germans, Celts, Scots, and Italians, was it over? It's so stupid. It's so weak. I hope like Nick's bloodline is in whatever purgatorial hell that they're in, and they're just like looking at him and they're like, how are you so weak? How are you so weak? You're living in the middle class in the greatest commercial and military empire that's ever existed. You're living in the center of New Rome at its peak, and now you're worried that there's too many Eastern Europeans around you. Because bear in mind, that's what the Romans did. The Roman Empire, before like Cicero and Cato predicted the fall of the Western Roman Empire, they were like 300 years too early. And part of the reason why they were wrong is because Eastern European generals and consuls were still commanding the armies that were keeping back the barbarian horde, while the Italians were saying, it's so over. Like, it's so cringe, and it's so like antithetical to the human spirit. It's so gross and lame. I'm descended from Irish bog people. Do you understand that? Do you understand that 2,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, my ancestors were dudes with machetes with like blue tattoos that whenever some like random weird people came over, they would like chop their heads off and put them on like wooden pikes. And then they got conquered by the Romans. Then they got conquered by the English. Then they got conquered by these people. Then they got conquered by those people. They got conquered over and over again. They got enslaved. They were economically enslaved for centuries. They worked in the most like dire material conditions possible. And not only did they survived long enough in order to thrive. And they lived long enough in order to thrive in the United States. It's so weak. I hate this weakness. It's not just physical weakness. It's not just Nick Fuentes' spider fingers. I don't know if you guys have said this. It's very mean. It's very mean. But when I bend my hands like this, I don't know if you guys can see this, my joints have enough connective tissue in them that they don't bend like spiders' legs. Whereas if you look at Nick's incestuous genetic issues, he has spider fingers. Okay? So why is this like weak genetic dead end spider fingered freak telling me that it's over? I hate this. This is poison for the soul. Doobie says, nah, I can tell you came from a bog. Yeah, fuck you too.
Sinatra. The country.
An Italian. A woke Italian from 100 years ago is based.
Is the flesh and blood people. If those people and their way of life specifically.
Bad analysis. What's the Reconquista when dudes have AI girlfriends, the pod, and the drugs? Don't get an AI girlfriend. Don't get in the pod. Don't do drugs. How hard is that, bad analysis?
Their mannerisms, their customs, their holidays, their beliefs, their culture, their value, even the way they look, the way they act. If those people are going away, if they're going extinct, then the country is going extinct too. And of course, people will still live here. The land mass isn't going anywhere. The government isn't going anywhere. There'll still be human habitation here, but it won't actually be the same place. And
do you know how much I hate this? I kind of went on like a sci-fi rant with Pisco the other day. Do you know how bad I want to solve the material conditions of the working class and the middle class so I can lull them back to productive sleep? where they work 40 to 50 hours a week and they just pay their bills and take care of their families and go to the park and this, that, the other. I'm doing that right now. Do you know how much I want to lull the productive population back to like productive slumber? Okay. And just don't do it, bro. It's over. We can't do that with normal weed and gaming now. Bad analysis. Go the fuck outside, bro. Go outside. The Groiper PFP guy who can't stop playing video games and jerking off and smoking weed. Number one, stop smoking weed. Number two, put down the controller. Number three, stop listening to doomer content. Number four, walk outside. Okay? You could be living in the worst apartment complex on the worst side of town, and it's probably still a beautiful day outside. There are probably people going to local stores and shopping and having fun and buy. You don't even need to spend that much money, okay? You're probably around. Let's assume that you're in like the shittiest apartment on the shittiest side of town, okay? Stop, put the controller down, walk to your local 7-Eleven, buy a packet of peanut butter M&Ms and a ginger ale, okay? And go sit on a park bench and let the wind kiss your face and eat the peanut butter M&Ms and drink the ginger ale, okay? You will feel so much better after walking and eating candy and sitting on a park bench and letting nature kiss your face than you will sitting in my chat bitching about how it's so over. Fucking crazy. You are wasting your life in an apocalyptic death cult. It's sad to me. It's infuriating, but it's sad. Doobie for 10 says, "No, I can tell you came from a bog." We're about to hit the second goal, by the way. Ranger Nation with the 5. Nick, a man who doesn't go outside trying to tell people that America is gross. Go outside. Now. Now, you can keep listening to the stream on your headphones. Go outside, go get some peanut butter M&Ms, go get a ginger ale, sit on a park bench and eat it and stare out into the world. That's like $17. It is like $6. I'll admit it. A packet of M&Ms is like $2.29, and a 20-ounce bottle of soda is $2 as well. So it's like $5, and with taxes it's like $6. But go spend $6 on yourself, okay? It'll be all right. It'll be all right. See, Justin's outside. Justin's outside. Justin says, "I'm outside and the snow looks cute." Thank you, Justin. All right. Go outside the barn, take a drink, graze a little bit, but don't think about your impending slaughter. You're such a pussy, Tawijado. Stop being a pussy. $6 in this economy. All right, we got to get back into the content, and I got to keep drawing. Ranger Nation for 10, thank you for letting us hit the goal. Real serious with the 100 ARS. Thank you for helping us hit the goal. Not to do the whole privileged Americans things, but some of you guys really have a ton of things you don't appreciate or that you should fight to recover. But bro, go to Yosemite. It's so gorgeous. I'm with you. Ranger Nation says, "I take the train, white, black, Hispanic, white, black, Americans. We're all Americans. We don't hate each other. We have a trinket for every holiday at the door. It's my job. That's America." True. All right, let me reset the goal one more time. We're still going for another hour easily. Start another goal. All right, hold on. Let's let Nick Fuentes doomer pill us a little bit more while I continue to draw the geopolitical greater Israel thing. All right, anyways, let's do it.
You see that everywhere you go, everywhere you look, in every way. You see it when you're driving in traffic. You see it when you go to work, when you send your kids to school.
Justin says it's about having standards. We don't want to live in squalor. Then clean up your house. What do you want? Dude, go get some bleach right now. Go get some bleach. Go get some general cleaner. Go get some paper towels and go wipe down your counters. Wipe down your counters. Dust the top of your refrigerator. Wipe down your windowsills. Why are you talking to me about living in squalor? Outdoor stream when? I need to figure out the tech in order to do that. We should do outdoor streams.
Isn't the same country anymore. And there's something incredibly dispiriting and sad and depressing about that. And people say, why am I popular? It's because it feels like I'm one of the only people that's fighting back against this.
Bullshit.
I'm one of
What
the
a
only
coward.
people that has freed myself from the mental shackles, because that's all it is. We are accused of being racist, white supremacists, neo-Nazis, anti-Semites, Christian nationalists, white nationalists, whatever. People like the show because they like when an unapologetic white American stands up for the country and says, no, we're not going to die. At the minimum, I'm not going to die. I'm not going out without a fight. And if one man can get up and say, I'm not going to go down without a fight, then maybe a whole country can get up and say that we're not going down without a fight. Maybe that's the strength of the message. And that is really the future conflict. This is what I predict for 2026. They're going to try to gaslight us into thinking that all of our concerns are bound up in the economics. That
True. I do think economics would solve a lot of this, but I do understand that it's not purely economic. And I think a lot of lefties, as a matter of fact, Pisco tried to say that the other day. He tried to say like, oh, well, how much of this is economics? And it's like, yeah, like a healthy chunk. Obviously, people being able to afford a decent life is going to affect the way that they perceive reality. But some of this is like ethno-religious tribal bullshit. And you're gonna have to figure out how to fix these things. So the reason why I drew what I drew, which should be on your screen right now, is that this is the modern state of Israel. It does not include the West Bank. I think I accidentally drew Israel containing Gaza, but let's be real. They militarily control Gaza and they don't have any plans to rebuild it. So I think they're just hoping that the Gazans move away eventually just because they're tired of living in rubble, and then they'll annex it. So my prediction, by the way, if you actually wanted me to make a prediction, my prediction is that Israel will eventually occupy the West Bank. They eventually will annex it. They'll keep the Palestinian Muslims who are in there as second-class citizens or not citizens at all, and then they'll annex that and they'll keep this territory. I was asking you guys for a year that I think that this would happen, I think it's entirely possible that if Israel is tolerated in annexing Gaza, then by the year 2100, this would be my prediction. My prediction would be that this is what the state of Israel is. What I'm saying is absurd to me is the fact that, as a matter of fact, I'll change it. This is what I think will happen by 2100. I think that Israel will occupy the West Bank, that Arab Palestinian Muslims or Palestinian Muslims will be second-class citizens, or they won't be citizens at all, that they will be pushed out through cultural hostility, economic hostility, and social hostility. Some of them will stay, but they'll end up being a minority within the state of Israel. And this is the state that I would expect to exist 1,000 years from now, because I think that not enough Israelis believe in the greater Israel project. I don't think they have the demographic numbers. I don't think they have the military numbers. I don't think they have the colonial numbers to take this over. This is actually where I think the state of Israel ends, is annexing the West Bank and Gaza, and that's about it. What you guys are saying, though, is that Bibi Netanyahu and his right-wing psychopaths plan on annexing this additional territory, and I'm saying they don't have the military or population capacity to do so. I would so much rather, this did happen in the Pisco conversation, I would so much rather be planning on how do we get the working class and middle class to sufficient material conditions that they feel like they're living a good life, but they're still economically productive. How do we get robots, Boston Dynamics robots, and Starship into the belt so we can start dragging asteroids to Mars for processing, and so we can start mining oceans of lithium and iron and copper and nickel and deuterium and hydrogen and this, that, the other. Okay. And how do we use those resources not only in order to colonize the solar system so it feels like we have a military, economic, commercial, exploratory dominance of our solar system, but then how do we think about slingshotting ourselves as a species outside of our own solar system? I would love to spend the next I would love to be alive to see us doing that. I would love to spend the next 1,000 years on that project. But it seems like because of people like Nick Fuentes, because of people like some people in my chat, we have to have this babysitting of, not only do we have to babysit poorly behaved subcultures of criminals or female genital mutilation or religious zealotry or violence. Not only do we have to babysit all the bad ideas that are in that, we have to babysit the counter reaction to all these negative subcultures in the Western world, which is effectively the equivalent of Nick Fuentes and hundreds of thousands of young men throwing a hissy fit. And so instead of thinking, I know unobtainium, I would love me some unobtainium right now, but about to unobtainium a gun. So the to my face, okay, cancel that. So so the point is, like, I do this because it's entertaining. Okay. I do this because Nick's a smart guy. He's charismatic. He's interesting. He's funny. I like watching the Game of Thrones game between Destiny and Hassan Piker and Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones. I like the game. I think it's funny. I think it's interesting. I think it's a cool way to occupy myself while waiting to die. But there's better shit we could be doing, right? Nick Fuentes is smart. belay that. True. Okay, I'm going to fast forward 5 or 10 minutes because I'm not going to lie. The whinging is annoying to me. So I want to see what Nick is the equivalent of an apocalyptic Baptist fire and brimstone preacher. I hope the audience members who are watching my coverage of this, I hope you realize that he is the equivalent of a doomsday preacher.
To corral them back into slavery incorporated with some kind of Groyper veneer. That's going to be the playbook. You can take that to the bank. They're already playing it. They've already been playing it. And that was the 1-2 punch of Tucker and Piers Morgan. Bring me onto the show, making of a murderer. Let's get a glimpse into the twisted mind of Nick Fuentes and show everybody how evil he is and how anyone could follow him. Then bring him on Piers Morgan to reveal the real Nick Fuentes that loves Hitler and this, that, and the other. That's the MO. I would add one final thing, and then we'll move on. Here's the biggest play. In the end, where all of this is headed is J.D. Vance for president in 2028.
There we go.
That is the lead, which they have buried. As quickly as they got J.D. Vance in the vice presidency nomination last year, they want to get him in the Oval Office in 2028.
Correct. And by the way, this is coming from, J.D. Vance knows how to play VAGA. J.D. Vance does have some economic protectionist instincts. He actually seems to unironically like tariffs, and he does seem to have a national conservative platform. But J.D. Vance is also a tool of Silicon Valley, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, transhuman, post-human techno-feudalists. So, Beef Supreme says Connor is totally voting for Vance in 28. Well, it depends on whether or not he wants to conquer the solar system. If he wants to conquer the solar system, yeah, if Gavin Newsom is like, hey, there is nothing more important than transing your kids. We all have to trans our kids immediately. Here's some bathtub estrogen, right? And then if JD Vance is like, I saw a Counterpoint stream. I thought it was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. and I am going to stabilize the economy so the working class and middle class of America feels like they have a stake in the American empire. And I am going to start the research and development necessary in order to conquer the solar system, then you're right. I'll vote for JD Vance.
They want to make him the president. Why? Who knows? But there are powerful forces.
Oh, 100%. Beef Supreme says, so if Gavin Newsom says, I'm going to send, you don't need to send people to Alpha Centauri. You can just send Boston Dynamics robots. But if Gavin Newsom says, I'm going to stabilize the economy so the working class and middle class Americans feel like they have a stake in the American empire, and we're going to send Boston Dynamics robots to Alpha Centauri, yeah, I'm voting Gavin Newsom 100%.
Forces in Silicon Valley, billionaires, the GOP, all the king's men that want to make JD Vance the president. And I have identified myself very early on as an opponent of JD Vance. And for that, they want to bury me.
True.
For that, they want to kill me. Because I'm telling a lot of young men that Vance is going to need in the election, I'm telling a lot of young men, do not trust this guy, because this guy is a creep. We don't know who he is. We don't know what his real name is. We don't know what his real job is. We don't know who he owes, who blackmailed him, who he works for. We just don't know anything about this guy. And it's weird. It's weird.
Benz O'Neill says, what if Vance promises that, but then he ends up cutting NASA funding? Then you'll be able to, I routinely post the fell for it again meme against a bunch of like MAGA people where I'm like, I can't believe you believe Trump when Trump said this thing. And then Trump does something that's incredibly damaging to the American public. And then I just post the you fell for it again meme. If Vance comes out for space colonization and stabilizing the American economy, but then I vote for him and then he uno reversos and he destroys the American economy and he doesn't do anything in reference to space colonization, then you can post the you fell for it again meme on my Twitter profile.
Weird. He's weird. His family's weird. It's weird that they're all.
This is like getting kicked in my grill sack. What if Vance wants to trans everyone and Gavin Newsom wants to conquer the galaxy? Yeah, then of course I'm voting for Gavin Newsom.
Promoting him. Something is not right here. And that much is obvious.
Okay, Sacred Snow says, didn't expect Nick to have a better take than Vance on Connor. Dude, I've said everything that Nick is saying. I've said it all. I've said that Vance is a Silicon Valley plant. He's in the pocket of techno-feudalists. He's a crypto-fascist. He doesn't have any real beliefs. I've already said all that stuff. It's boring to say. It's not as fun.
Obvious. Everybody with eyes can see that something is off about that. And that's the biggest thing. And I believe it when I say this, that if I were going out on the show every night and saying, let's all be good team players and let's all vote for JD Vance in 28, they would tolerate me. Trust me when I tell you that if I were going out every day on the show and saying, let's all be good little Republicans and let's dutifully vote for JD Vance, you know, they would tolerate me. They would tolerate my antics. They would tolerate my extremism. They would tolerate all of it.
Probably. Real Serious says, Connor, what if Gavin said you can travel the galaxy, but only if you're trans? Would you take it? I'd have to think about it, bro.
They would bring me in under their wing as a junior partner. They would pat me on the head. They would give me opportunities if I was willing to play ball, if I was willing to horse trade, if I was willing to say, vote for JD. Everybody, we got to be all in. But they are clearing the runway. They have created a media ecosystem using comedians, using podcasts, using conventions, using things like Turning Point. They have created a runway. And they have cleared the runway for Vance to be unopposed in 28, to raise $1 billion, and then to be the next president, to inherit all the machinery that Trump created, all this stuff that Trump has done with the executive branch, all the rules Trump has broken. They want J.D. Vance to inherit that. You want to know why? It's the same reason Elon Musk was brought into this administration. Elon Musk brought in Doge in the beginning of the year. They cut no.
Hey, Doobie, can you send me the moral video? I'm probably going to let Nick put a nice little bow tie on this, and then I'm going to watch the morality video.
No waste, fraud, or abuse. They didn't cut any spending. But you know what they did do? Elon Musk made all the hiring
I mean, they gutted USAID and PEPFAR, but go off, King.
decisions in the Pentagon. Elon Musk and the Silicon Valley people, they made all the decisions about hiring and firing in the Department of War. Why does that matter? Because the Department of War is going to determine who gets the military contracts when the military embraces AI, when the military embraces unmanned aircraft, boats, vehicles.
Sorry, somehow my Chrome full screened, and I clicked. Yeah. That's the one that I clicked on. Matter of fact, let me just go ahead and wrap it. I'll wrap it, and then I'll move into the morality thing. Doobie gave us a shitload of cash, so I need to respect my. Even if they don't respect me, I need to respect my Oilers. So, like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. You guys blew through 3 goals today. We have 35 donations. I did set a new goal for 2 hours, but honestly, everybody's been super generous. It's been a super generous year. I parasocially love you, and thank you for the support. Let me go ahead and put a nice little bow on that. No, he just sent it to me. Doobie just sent me the link via Discord. So let me put a nice little bow on that. Nick is funny. Okay. Nick is funny. Nick is charismatic. I think he's megalomaniacal. I think he's egotistical. I think he's a little bit crazy, but realistically, there's a reason why he's successful. And it's because he's charismatic and it's because he's funny. I think that him characterizing the fact that he got the Iran war correct for the plan of greater Israel is crazy. I also think the fact that Doobie and other people in my chat are like, oh yeah, they're 100% doing greater Israel. It's going to happen. You're an idiot if you don't think that greater Israel is the thing. And then we actually look at the population numbers, the military capacity, the colonial capacity, all that kind of stuff. And they just don't have it. They just don't have it. Like maybe they could do it in 2500, maybe they could do it in the year 3000, but with an increasing secularizing population, I don't think it's possible. Okay. And so my prediction is by the year 2100, Israel will, relatively speaking, be at peace with Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. And it will probably have annexed the West Bank and Gaza. That's my prediction by 2100. Whereas what these hyper Israel critics are saying is that no. They have territorial ambitions that are from the eastern Nile to the western Euphrates. JL still on this. My brain is fucking melting. Then go watch something else, bro. Go watch Cocomelon. Okay? Go watch Cocomelon. It'll be better for you. So anyways. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day.